All right, welcome everyone. I am really excited to have Shahed here with us again. She has been writing on political and social issues for a long time. She was deputy editor of Aurelia magazine. Shahed has written for a ton of publications like HuffPost, Glamour, Stylist, Scaldem. I mean, she's done everything. And now she's writing a book, which is really exciting. And I know that in our community, a lot of people are interested in writing books, being a journalist, navigating it. So we are doing a 2-in-1 and combining a session with everything you need to know about it. And also a way to fundraise for a book, which is in a really cool format. It's a sort of crowdfunding format to publish books. And so I think this would be a really great session. It will be recorded. I'm assuming we're going to have a moment for the Q&A afterwards, and the recording will be sent to you and will be available for 2 days after you receive it. And after that, we will remove it from public view. And with that, we'll leave you with our speaker of the day.
Hello, everyone. I don't know if you want to give it 5 minutes. I know you said there's a few more people coming.
Yeah, I think you can start the intro. And
okay, I'll do the
intro. Everyone coming.
Got
if
you.
Anyone else is late.
Yeah, no, got you. Yeah, it's 25 too. Yep, hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Very excited to do another event with I Like Networking. Did one in the past with me and Kai. Did one as part of Aurelia, and it was really fun. So now I'm doing it solo. So yes, I will start my little slideshow. It's nothing special. I, not very good with technology. So yes, a little bit about me. Yeah, as Isabel said, I'm a freelance writer. I've been writing since I was doing corporate writing since 2018, and then got made redundant in the pandemic. So decided to go freelance. Have been freelancing since I think December 2020. I mostly write features, and I report on politics and race and culture and social issues, with also some entertainment chucked in there as well, and more recently with kind of celebrity profiles. I don't have a background in journalism. I don't have an NCTJ or a journalism degree. I kind of just did it through pitching and experience. Now I'm here 3 years later. Yeah, so in 2017, I went to uni and I did a master's degree in criminology. So that's my background. Mine is more, sociology, criminology, which has now led to the book I'm writing, which I will come on to. And yeah, I've written for kind of more mainstream platforms and also kind of your independent platforms, which is mostly what I write for now, kind of your Galdem, Tribune, Red Pepper, kind of places like that. And yes, I was the deputy editor of Aurelia for a year, but I was part of Aurelia since I think it was 2018. So the early days of the magazine. It's a brilliant platform. I would urge everyone to check it out if you haven't already checked it out, and also pitch to them. They're amazing. So it's a personal essays platform for marginalised genders. That's pretty much everyone except for cis men. That was a brilliant experience. I've also done a bit of radio, and my current job is I'm the freelance editor at Bustle UK. So that's kind of the lifestyle and entertainment platform. They have a big American branch, and then Bustle UK was established, I think, 5 years ago. So yeah, I'm one of their editors at the moment there. And then, I thought I'd just do a screenshot of some of my recent pieces. So the Galdem one was kind of a more long form feature that I spent about 3 months researching and working on. I think it might have been 2 or 3 months. So that's the kind of stuff that I do for them, more politics and kind of social issues. The bottom one is a piece I did recently, a feature on the Iranian women who were shaving their heads and cutting their hair in the protests that are happening right now. And then the Rolling Stone one is kind of one of the celebrity profiles that I've done, which is one of the actors from Umbrella Academy, as the 3rd season was released on Netflix a few months ago. And yes, that brings us on to my book that I'm writing at the moment. So I'm writing a book on gendered Islamophobia and white feminism and the relationship between the two of them, and how it harms and inflicts harm on Muslim women in the UK, in the US, and worldwide as well, especially in the global South. My publisher is Unbound. They are a crowdfunding publisher. So they commission the idea, your agent sends the idea, the proposal, they've commissioned it, we had meetings, and then they kind of put a crowdfunding campaign together. It's kind of a collaborative process. And then, they give you the funding target, and then, yeah, you start crowdfunding. So at the moment, today, it reached 25%, which is great. It's been live for, I think, 4 or 5 weeks. But yeah, so that's my debut book that hopefully will be funded I'm hoping in the next 6 months or so. And then, yeah, hopefully it'll be out in the world and everybody will be able to read it. And also you'll be receiving a promo code with your ticket. So if this is interesting to you, I think it's a 10% off code for any of the reward levels that's on the campaign page. So yeah, you've got kind of like signed paperbacks, normal paperbacks, digital books, and then there's like a few more. I think there's a journalism masterclass on there as well, if anyone's interested in that. So you just take a pick of your reward, and then yeah, each one you get a book though. So yeah, onto the kind of writing side of things. So a lot of the questions I do tend to get is, how do you kind of generate ideas? Where do you get ideas from? Especially in a world where everyone seems to be writing about the same thing. So I put together a few bullet points. Also, if you have any questions when these things pop up, you can just put them in the chat, and I'm sure I'll get to them as well. So yeah, a few points about where to get ideas from. I think the first one is pretty much what kind of everyone kind of does if you're a journalist or a writer, which is, reading the news, that's pretty much what I do as soon as I log on every day. If that's at Bustle or if I'm doing my freelance work the other days of the week, is dedicating kind of like 20-30 minutes to seeing what the news is that day, what's happening, and also kind of reading other articles or features or magazines, and seeing kind of what people are talking about and what's happening in the world at the moment, and how you can kind of gain ideas from that. And also means your pitching will be more successful because it's seen as kind of more timely and relevant to what's happening right now. Another one for me is social media, especially Twitter, especially if you're a journalist, looking at what people are talking about, trends, why people are talking about it, why now. I always tend to screenshot things if things are interesting, especially if they're like, hashtag that's going around. If, a bit of discourse is happening, that usually tends to lead to like bigger pieces and, pitching becoming more successful because everyone seems to be talking about it. Another one is, not every idea is going to be original. We're journalists, but also we are all kind of speaking about the same things in a cycle, especially if it's kind of news and culture kind of stuff like that. But I think the key thing is looking at these kind of, if there's an article that you really enjoyed reading, is there a different angle to it? Does it impact a different community? And so picking apart kind of the stories and the structures of the stories is also quite key. Especially if you've kind of got a different lived experience to the writer that you can kind of bring to a new piece and like a fresh take on things. But then once you've got your idea, it will always need fleshing out. Kind of pitching an idea that hasn't really been backed up by anything probably will mean an editor won't really look at it. So yeah, data and research is a big one, or kind of, an evidence base if it's kind of a trend in politics or anything like that. So yeah, I definitely would recommend kind of looking at data research, ensuring that you've backed up your idea before you click send on the pitch, which, speaking of pitches, that is the next slide. So yeah, some of the tips that I have put together over the years of kind of, especially with Aurelia and kind of the stuff I've seen kind of land in my inbox. So one of the big ones that especially with Aurelia, but especially with kind of independent platforms, is read through that publication that you're pitching to. When I was at Aurelia, we could really tell when pitches came through which people kind of weren't reading what was out there, and what our style was, what the house style was, how we phrased things. So yeah, I would definitely recommend kind of spending some time reading through a bunch of articles on the publication that you're about to pitch to. And also another thing is checking that your idea hasn't already been written about. That's probably another big kind of rejection emails that I was getting in the first early stage of my career, is that an editor will get back to you and say, well, we've already covered this. So that's when to thinking of a different angle or kind of bringing your own experience into it kind of, enhances the pitch in a way. The second thing is making sure you're emailing the right editor. Emailing the wrong editor will probably mean you won't get a response. So yeah, I'd say definitely try and find the email for that right editor, whatever department they're in. So if you're pitching kind of an opinion piece, the opinion editor of, let's say, The Guardian or The Independent. If it's kind of a culture piece, the cultural editors of these, of like Vice or anything like that, and also spelling their name correctly. A lot of people, I was one of them at Aurelia, where if my name wasn't spelled correctly, then you're already starting off on a bad foot. So yeah, just doing a double check before you hit send, spelling their name correctly. I would also say Twitter is a great place for finding editor emails. Their emails are usually in the bio, or the format of the emails is quite easy to predict. If someone from, say, Vice has got their email in the bio and someone else hasn't, you can kind of put together the formatting of that email. If anybody needs any editor emails or contacts, then please let me know. I'm always happy to kind of email out the ones that I've got, that I've kind of put together over the years. The third point is this seems quite a simple thing, but I think it does add to the more likelihood of someone reading your email, is putting kind of pitch and then the pitch title as a subject line. Editors get a lot of emails from a bunch of different places. It's not just kind of writers. You've got your PRs, like charities, organizations, and so putting pitch in the subject line will mean that they know where it's coming from, know that you're a writer, and they usually kind of put time aside to check for pitches, so they'll know that they might file it away into a subfolder and check it later. The fourth point is being concise with the idea and pitch. At Aurelia, there were some pitches that I got were like documents, like an essay. So yeah, be concise. It should only really be a couple of short paragraphs. If it's an opinion piece, it should be a few lines, really. Or if you don't want to do, what I tend to do is list my main points of the article in bullet points, so that kind of the editor can kind of scan through. Also, don't send pictures as attachments like Word documents or Google Docs. It's just an added barrier, especially if it's a Google Doc and it hasn't, you kind of opened up the permissions. It just means that an editor isn't going to go out their way to kind of find that pitch. They don't have a lot of time. So yeah, I just put the pitch in the email itself. That's absolutely fine. Everybody else does that. And then yeah, briefly introduce yourself. You can do this at the beginning or you can do it at the end. I do it at the beginning usually. It doesn't have, it's literally just a line will do, and then kind of any bylines or experience that you've got as well. That includes kind of student publications, or if you don't have those, kind of a link to a blog will do as well, just so that they can see that you have experience of kind of writing copy. And the last thing is avoiding sending out mass pitches. So this one is if this is emailing multiple editors at different publications at the same time. If it's an urgent pitch, say it's an opinion piece or it's really, really timely, I would put, when you're putting pitch here, I would add urgent. But I would only do that if it's really mega timely. Say the news, that kind of news is going to disappear over the next 24 hours. So yeah, so if you are going to send an urgent pitch, I would add a line at the bottom of the email saying, just to let you know, I will be sending this out to other editors in like the next hour or so. So just so that they're aware that if they don't pick it up in that, in that hour window, that is going to go somewhere else, but it's just to cover your back. And just in case, you get 3 commissions through for the same piece, and then you're in a bit of an awkward spot. I would also say, so I did get this a bit earlier too, is try to avoid sending multiple pitches in one email. If you have multiple ideas, that's great, but kind of maybe try pitching one and see how it goes, and then kind of space them out a bit. But if you really, really have to, then I would try to keep each one really, really short, kind of just a brief summary of what the pieces are about. But yeah, those are kind of the pitching tips that I've got. I'm sure there are loads more questions about this, and I will try to answer them as best I can. So yeah, I'm relatively new to the world of publishing, so I kind of put together kind of my own experience, and I will try to answer questions around this as well. So there's no real right way of doing this for kind of approaching publishing and trying to get your book out there. But the first thing to do, I would say, was flesh out the idea for your book. So for non-fiction books, publishers will want to see a book proposal, which is around 10,000, 12,000 words. And then fiction reads will want a completed manuscript. So for me, I'm writing a non-fiction book, so that's my area of expertise. So I didn't approach an agent with a completed book proposal. It was just kind of an idea that I had. And then I kind of chatted through with her, and we kind of wrote the book proposal kind of as more of a collaborative thing. She was kind of editing for me, looking through ideas, making sure it flowed, structure, etc. So then once you've kind of got your idea and you kind of know what your book's going to be about, it's a good idea to start looking into agents. Twitter is a great place for looking for agents and agencies. They're quite active on there. That's where I found mine. So I'm with Florence. She's at AM Heath. She's great. But yeah, we kind of were, kind of DMing on Twitter. And then, yeah, the meetings from there kind of spurred on from there. Another thing is, I'd say make sure your agent is right for you. There's nothing worse than having an agent that you do not vibe with. It will just cause a lot of stress. So I think make sure you don't kind of go with the first one that you've got, reach out to a few, have multiple meetings. That's what I did. And then make sure you have lots of, if you have any questions, that's what they're there for. That's what these intro meetings are kind of about. And seeing who kind of vibes with your idea and kind of believes in it. That's the whole thing, is who is vibing and believing in your idea the most, and kind of sees the vision of where you want your book to go. So then once you've got an agent and you sign the contract, your agent will then work with you on your proposal or your manuscript, which is usually kind of a few months. It's it's a relatively short period of publishing, but it feels like quite long if you're used to the fast-paced world of journalism. And then, yeah, once the proposal, the manuscript is complete, then they will start sending it out to editors. Another thing I get questions about is kind of, how much agents take. I'm not really sure if this kind of ranges. I know mine is 15, my agent is 15%. So when my book is commissioned and not just commissioned, when it's funded and it's published, my agent will take 15%. I think that's industry standard, but it might vary. So yeah, that's how much my agent will take. And then, yeah, questions.
Thanks, Shahed. Does anyone have any questions? And you can pop them in the chat, or if you want to be recorded with your question, we can also do that. But otherwise, please pop it and we can talk to you about it. So I guess, yeah, Shahed, what would you say? So, someone asked, how did you get started? Okay, I'll ask my questions afterwards.
How did I get started? Okay, so I was writing kind of blogs for a local company in Sheffield. I was writing about hand dryers, which were really boring, but it was a good writing experience. That was a full-time job. And then I joined Aurelia, actually. They were my first commission. It was unpaid, so I did start off kind of doing unpaid work. But because I was working a full-time job, it kind of weighed itself out. So yeah, my first piece was for Aurelia. I think it was about living between two cultures or something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, that was 2018. And then I started writing for various other kind of smaller publications, mostly unpaid. And then I started pitching, and then I sent a pitch to Huffington Post. It was an opinion piece about what was it about? It was about difficult names and pronunciation, and how people kind of, they don't pronounce names properly here, especially if a name's deemed foreign. And that got commissioned. So that was my first paid commission, as an opinion. So I did start off writing opinion pieces, and then once I kind of got that experience, I ventured into kind of the more slower forms of writing. So like features, reported articles, like shift work. So yeah, I started off doing unpaid writing, and then yeah, kind of still was with Aurelia, so that was still kind of going on. But then yeah, I got made redundant in 2020, so I decided to give freelancing a go, and yeah, here we are.
Great explanation, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, I have a question with the book. Did you get in touch with different agents? Did you get in touch with embellishers directly? How was your process? Did you know any agents? Did you feel really scared about that just being your first book? Like, how do you navigate this if this is your first ever attempt at writing?
Yes, I got my agent first. So I had an idea, and then I think Florence was following me on Twitter, and then she DM'd me to ask, have you thought of writing a book? Do you have any ideas? Would love to hear them. So we organised like an intro meeting, which went quite well. She really liked the idea. And then I had another agent email me from a different agency, who also like coincidentally asked if I was writing a book, if I was interested in writing a book. So I had a meeting with her too. So I had a meeting with two agents, and then they both had offers of representation, and I went with Florence just because it was a better fit. So then yeah, once I had my agent, she was like, she sent me kind of proposal structure documents and examples, and then yeah, I had like a few months to write my proposal. I think there was kind of two editing cycles with Florence before it kind of was finalized and went out to publishers. So yeah, proposal is usually kind of a synopsis So this is non-fiction. So it's usually a synopsis, which is like a page, just basically saying what the book is about, why you're writing it now. And then you kind of go into like marketing. So who's the competition? Where will your book sit in the market? Where do you see kind of the promo side of things, like which publications will be interested in covering it? And then you go into kind of your chapter breakdown. That's a few pages. And then the big thing is the sample chapter, which is, I think, around like 3,000, 4,000 words. So that's kind of the proposal. I finalized that with Florence, and then she sent it out to editors that we thought would be interested in it. The kind of mainstream publishers, there was interest, but they'd either published similar books, or there were just various reasons why it wasn't quite a fit. And then Ali from Unbound, my current editor, emailed me saying, oh, like, have you got an agent? Are you writing a book? Would love to hear your ideas. So I sent her my proposal, and she really liked it. And then I had a meeting. My agent and my editor, all three of us had a meeting. And then, she was like, I really want to commission it. And then, we went from there. And then I think the crowdfunding campaign took about a month to put together. And then, I think we launched on the 12th of September. And it was terrifying. I will say that.
That's another element on top of having to write the book.
Putting your idea and your book out into the world is nerve-wracking, and it's still nerve-wracking now, even though it's been out for I think 5 or 6 weeks. You just want people to like it, and to be fair, the engagement's been really, really nice so far. You do get your odd people who are like, oh, you're writing about white feminism, you're racist, but those are the people that should probably read it.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. So, okay, we have a question. Do you have any tips for conveying why I should be the one to write this article in terms of passion when you don't have much experience? Thanks.
Yes. So a lot of publications will have staff writers, even though that is now not so much the case. A lot more publications are relying on freelancers, which is always great if you're a freelancer. So I would say, if you really want to write the article, if it doesn't exist, I would definitely go for that kind of angle, like, oh, you haven't covered this topic, you haven't covered this topic from this specific angle that you've kind of brought to the table. So I would go down that road. If they have covered it, I would try and think of a different angle, or if you have any kind of personal experience that kind of links you to the story, that's always great to kind of pop in there as well. I know that's always not the case though. But sometimes they do just need freelancers to kind of cover stories, and especially if it's kind of not so much news stories, because they usually have news writers on the desk, but more kind of your longer form features, looking at things that are more evergreen. So I would just try and convey how much you want to write it, and kind of evidence why you should write it, if that's experience, or if it's not experience, kind of any gaps they have in their storytelling. Just convey your passion, and just give it a go. I get rejected all the time still, so please don't be worried about rejection. It's even the people who've been doing this for, like, I was speaking to someone who's working at Channel 4 now. They've been doing this for like 20 years, and like, my ideas still get rejected. I think it's something that we all have to kind of get used to in the world of kind of media and journalism. I always allow myself, with rejections, I always allow myself to feel sad for like 2 hours, like fully just feel the sadness, and then be like, okay, well, let's just, try another editor or try another publication. Because if it's a really good story, somebody will definitely want to pick it up.
Thank you. I think that was really good. Cool. So could you recommend good places to share blog posts from a personal blog?
Ooh, so I've not really written blog posts. I know Medium is a good one. A lot of people talk about Medium. I know a lot of writers who've now set up kind of newsletters, so like Substacks or the other kind of different platforms that you can use. I've signed up to a few, and they're actually quite good for kind of writing the longer things that maybe didn't get commissioned, or kind of more personal stuff, because you have space to kind of write in a newsletter. So I would say a newsletter is always a good place to start, or Medium. I'm not sure about, I think WordPress is one too. I've got a Squarespace website that I pay like £15 a month for, which has kind of my portfolio on it. But I know there's also, you can set up a blog function as well if you have kind of a website as well. So that could be something to look into.
Yeah, for sure. I recommend all of those. And yeah, Substack, most of them are free, these other
Mm.
platforms. And yeah. Do you have any advice or thoughts about building a financially sustainable career as a freelancer?
This is a very good question, something I'm still trying to figure out. For financial stability, when you're a freelancer, I would say the key thing that I think most people I've spoken to, and especially for me, is shift work, like regular work each week. So my Bustle editing shifts, I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and that's kind of my main source of income. And then I top that income up with any freelance commissions I've got the other 2 days of the week. And I know a lot of freelancers will do that because it's just regular income. I know a lot of the bigger platforms do have kind of a rotating shift of freelancers on their rota. So kind of Metro, Independent. I know stylists were looking a few months ago. Who else have we got? I used to do some shifts at Big Issue. They're always a good one to kind of start writing about kind of rolling news and more slower features as well, because you can kind of dip your toe into everything. Or you can, yeah, email me. I know Bustle sometimes looks for writing shifts, like write people who are writers. Um, we have a full rota at the moment, but it can always add you to our editor's kind of list that she has in case, people drop out or circumstances change. So yeah, my big one would be shift work. Or I know some other people who will do a part-time job, like 2, 3 days a week, that might not actually be that related, to writing or journalism, if that's working in a cafe or a bookshop. But it kind of gives you that stability that if no commissions come through that month, then I'm still going to be okay. So I would say don't be afraid to don't feel like you can't have a job that's not in this field. A lot of people do it and are great, great writers that go on to do really great things.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we had a session once with someone working in publishing, and she said that one of the most valuable jobs someone can get, if they can, is actually working in bookshops, because you get to see what people are being drawn to, what people are coming, going to, and like you learn a lot about people's tastes and what they're doing. So it can be really useful.
I mean,
And
I used to work in a bakery, and it was grueling work because I was working like 60 hours a week. But the conversations that you would hear, like I could write a book about the conversations I heard just from people chatting about what they think about the world, or people chatting to strangers. So that's even a great way of generating ideas, is if you do have a part-time job, say in a pub or a bar or a cafe, any like customer facing role, you might find you pick up some ideas there.
yeah, and I would say in terms of planning your finances, which is really important, there's a really good free resource from the Uncultured, which is a financial planner. I popped it on the chat. You download this a spreadsheet, and I think it's really helpful if you're starting out.
Mm.
Cool. How long do writing shifts tend to be? I
Yes.
know vary publication to
So
publication.
when I was doing writing shifts at the Big Issue, they were, I think it was nine. It was just 9 to 5. So that was that one. But where I'm working at the moment, Bustle, they're more staggered shifts. So I think they're more 4.5 hours. So say you start at 8, you'll be done by 2. Or I think it's that between 4 to 6 hours. Or if you start at 2, if you start at 1, you'll be done by kind of 5:30. But I think it varies from place to place. But I think most places do just do 9 to 5. I know stylists do. They'll just do kind of a 9:30 till 5 o'clock.
Amazing. Thank you. Do we have any more questions from this end? Otherwise, I'll send some more. Okay. Thank you. Great. Right. I think we've covered writing, the process, the agents, applying for things. Would you care to tell us, since we had this conversation before, about your move? Because before you were not in London, you were in Sheffield, right? I
Yeah.
think this is a really important conversation. I'd love for you to tell us about creating your career, starting your career outside of London, because a lot of people seem to think they have to be here,
Hmm.
build a
Yes.
business. So I think that would be really interesting to have your perspective.
Yeah, so I am from Sheffield. I'm based in Sheffield at the moment. I am in the process of moving to London, but not for work reasons. So yeah, when I first came into kind of the journalism and media world, I kind of knew it was London centric, but I was really astounded by actually how London centric it is. A lot of the stories are based on kind of the communities down there, or like obviously Westminster is down there. But people do forget, we do politics does happen to us up here in the north, especially in the north. But I also think when you're freelance, you can definitely use that to your advantage. A lot of the commissions I've gotten or have been offered have been because of where I've been based. So I have covered a lot of kind of stories in Sheffield, stories in Manchester. I think the only thing that's the downside, which is a shame, is that the events and kind of, I don't, you know, the networking events and the screenings and the film and the TV and the book and the, you know, the book clubs, they're all still in London, which still speaks to how far the industry needs to go. So I have found myself kind of, you know, taking trips to London here and there over the years. But I think when it comes to like actually, you know, getting commissions and kind of doing the writing, it's not, I've not noticed a massive difference. I just noticed that the stories and commissions that I do get do tend to be kind of geography based or location based, which, you know, if there are things happening in your hometown or in your home city, I would definitely use that as an advantage and make, you know, make that clear in your pitch. You know, I'm based here, I know the community well, I know the area well, and it can, yeah, it can be a big plus. But yeah, I think the downside is definitely the physical events are still in London, which I really wish they weren't, because London train tickets are so expensive.
It's chaos. Cool. Thanks, Shahed. Would you tell us a little bit about your process of writing the book now that, I mean, it's funded with 25%, I think you've achieved. So what are you doing? Are you writing every day? Do you have a system? Are you doing like chapter by chapter? How are you actually tackling that since you have other jobs to do?
Yes, so this is something still, I'm in the early stages, so I'm still trying to figure out how to actually do the book alongside everything else. So I have decided I'm going to dedicate 2 days a week to the book. And I'm going to focus on it's going to be chapter by chapter, and each chapter does like involve research and interviews. So I've kind of broken it down by trying to aim to do one chapter per month or per 6 weeks. So I'm on the second chapter at the moment, but it's difficult trying to put yours, especially when you haven't got the. So I wasn't, the way I'm doing it crowdfunding wise. I wasn't offered an advance, and that's not how Unbound work. You crowdfund, and then once you reach 100%, then kind of you get paid a portion of that, and then there's like a system in place. With your kind of more traditional kind of mainstream publishers, you will usually get offered an advance, which kind of pays for the work that you're doing when you're not doing kind of your freelance or your full-time job. So yeah, I've got to kind of weigh up how I'm going to kind of split my time. I'm sure there'll be weekends in there, which is something I'm trying to avoid, but I'm sure they'll be in there somewhere. But yeah, the way my mind works is that I have to kind of compartmentalize and not think of it as this massive book that's like going to be like 100,000 words, because I would just never get anything done. So yeah, the way I'm thinking about it is like, oh, we're doing this chapter, like, you know, for the next 6 weeks, try and do say 1,000 words a week, and then it seems kind of more manageable. If you know, 1,000 words a week over 2 days, that's 500 words. So it's definitely something that's doable. So I'm trying to think of it more like that. So that's how I've approached it. I'm not a morning person, so for my book days, I tend to start at kind of like 1 o'clock, kind of, you know, read my book in the morning or watch TV, and then kind of do 1 o'clock until kind of like 7 o'clock. So that's kind of how I work. But I know a lot of people, I know some authors that have kind of, I wake up at 6 a.m. and I wake up at 6 a.m. and I smash out 2,000 words and I'm done by lunchtime. So yeah, it's definitely kind of how you would usually do your writing, and how you would approach it in your kind of freelance or kind of your full-time, well, not so much your full-time job. But yeah, that's kind of how I'm kind of trying to approach it. So yeah, currently on chapter 2.
We'll get there. How many do you need to have a certain number of words? Is there a guide for that?
I think
I'm
I'm pretty sure my contract says between 70 to 80 or some 70 to 80,000, something like that. I think once the final draft goes in, then the word count kind of goes into play. But I think on the first draft, they just kind of want to read the book.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm interested in writing about institutional racism in the Labour Party for an assignment. What books, journals, articles would you recommend to learn from, as well as advisement writing on a sensitive topic?
Yes, well, this is a big one, and a good question, actually. So obviously, you know, institutional racism is rife in all parties, but Labour Party as well. We had that big report come out. I would say first point of call is probably reading that report that came out that got buried under the bus. So yeah, that's definitely one. And then kind of more of the left-leaning publications. So I'd say Tribune is a good place to start. They do a lot of work around that. Red Pepper, that's also a good one. Novara Media, they cover this kind of stuff kind of extensively. I know they did an interview with Absama Begum recently about her experience of domestic abuse in the party, and kind of, well, not in the party, but her experience of domestic abuse, and then kind of not being supported by the leadership team. So yeah, they also cover it extensively. Books, I would say your independent publishers, so Pluto Press and Verso Books will most likely have books either around the Labour Party or kind of around institutional racism and politics. So that would be also a good place to start. I can't think of any over the top of my head, but I can always message you if anything comes to mind. Advice writing on a sensitive topic. I would say if there's no real deadline, I would say take a lot of breaks. It's really heavy stuff. That's what I do. A lot of screen breaks, reading kind of stuff that is completely different to what you're working on. So kind of, reading a sci-fi fiction book or a romance novel, kind of so that you're not just kind of in the politics all the time. I kind of get into that trap where you're like, oh, I'll take a break, but I'll go scroll Twitter. And then you kind of find the same things on there. So yeah, I would say take breaks, do something different, watch TV program that's a bit rogue or a bit very much different to what you're working on, and then kind of get back to it. Maybe do it in also small chunks. That's what I do if it's a bit more heavier. Kind of breaking the piece down into breaking the article down into pieces, and then kind of doing a section, having a break, doing a section, having a break, and then also if you're having kind of I do this as well. If I'm having a bad mental health day, nothing's going to get achieved by working on something kind of that sensitive and that heavy. So I would definitely try and approach this on days where you yourself are feeling good, and you're able to kind of take on kind of the darker stuff and the more heavy stuff, because that's what politics at the moment is like that.
I love this advice. It's really good. Not that I write about any of that stuff, but I think taking breaks.
Yeah, no, I used to write about it a lot more, but I also found myself becoming quite like a negative, pessimistic person about like the world. And I was like, oh, I don't really want to be like this anymore.
Yeah, I bet sometimes we need a little bit of a break from the news. It can be, especially now.
Also, social media breaks are great too. I've taken a break from Instagram this week. Ish. I've logged in for a work reason, but other than that, I was like, this week we're not doing that.
Yeah, amazing. I'm not on this. For anyone who follows our networking, we schedule the posts mostly in advance. We don't have capacity to see every single DM comment. It's a lot of stuff.
Exactly.
Try not to get caught up in it. All right. How many chapters do you plan on writing for your book?
I think I have got 10. Yeah, the last time I checked, there was 10.
How important do you think social media is for writers, and do you have any tips about how to grow/utilize it?
I do think it's a good tool. I would say that I don't think it's the be all and end all. There are writers who are not on there, and they still manage to write and report and work on their stuff and write their books. I found it useful mostly for networking, especially meeting like kind of other freelance writers. I'm in a Twitter group chat with other journalists of color, and I found that quite useful, especially in the early stages of my career, because you can complain, you can bounce ideas off each other, you can ask for an editor's email. I know there's quite a few like Twitter spaces that are hosted as well, which are quite useful. So yeah, I don't think it's the be all and end all. If you don't want to be on there, then that's fine too. Or you could always kind of set up if you don't want it to be kind of a personal account. I mostly use my Twitter as a work account, so I don't look at it at weekends mostly. It's just in the week. So kind of thinking of it like a LinkedIn profile, but not quite like LinkedIn profile. So you could just use it for work and then kind of bounce when you don't really need it anymore. It's quite useful for, I know editors do tend to kind of do like a Twitter search to see if that editor's on there. But if you're not on there, then it's not going to be detrimental to kind of your pitch or your commission. Tips on how to grow or utilize it. I'm not really sure. I don't know how I've managed to grow mine. I think just kind of sharing, making sure you always share your work. People always like to read what other people are writing about. So yeah, remembering to share your articles or your blogs or kind of anything that you've been working on. Also I guess if if you're interested in kind of like, celebrity culture or politics, tweeting about kind of stuff like that will mean that people kind of know your interests and kind of what you're interested in and the topics that you like to talk about. So that's always kind of useful when editors, I know sometimes, so when I was for my Rolling Stone piece on my interview with Ritu Arya, the Rolling Stone editor reached out to me and said, I've, was like, oh, I'm really interested in your work, blah, blah, blah. But also said that he'd done a Twitter search to see if I was a fan of the program. So that, I think there's a way you can search Twitter for keywords on someone's profile. Saw that I tweeted about it and so was like, I know you're a fan, so I thought maybe you'd be interested in this piece. Which is a kind of an odd way of going about it, but maybe editors do it, maybe it is more common than I thought. And so yeah, you don't have to use it, but it is useful sometimes. And yeah, you could always just set up like a work account so that you don't feel like you are putting too much of yourself out there. I know I sometimes find that, especially with Instagram. But on my Instagram, I've got my Instagram as a personal account, so I've made it private. So I've kind of tried to differentiate between the two. So my Instagram is personal and my Twitter is public, and that seems to be working for me at the moment.
Yeah, there's a question here about self-promotion. So yeah, this person is really worried about self-promoting, linking to my work too much. Is this something you struggle with? And yeah, are you having to change your habits because of crowdfunding? I think that's a question.
Yeah, so this is actually something I've really been struggling with. The idea of self-promotion sometimes does make me a bit sick, especially when you're self-promoting something as big as kind of like a book. But I do find it with articles too. Journalism is very kind of, it can be very like, this is what I did, this is what I've worked on. But what I'm trying to kind of, what I'm trying to find my way with is people, like if people are following you on social media, that means that they are either interested in what you're doing or they do want to read or follow your work. So that's kind of what I'm trying to remember. And especially with the book as well. It's, it requires a lot of self-promotion to crowdfund a book. And so I'm trying not to kind of, post about it every day, inundate people with the same thing. So with my book, I'm trying to post about it kind of once a week, twice a week, at the most, trying to find a balance with it, especially also just for me personally, so I don't feel like I'm just, shouting myself out into the world all the time. But yeah, I do really struggle with it, so I don't have any like definitive answers. It also really feeds into imposter syndrome as something else I struggle with a lot. Why am I, why am I doing this? Well, why have I been afforded, these commissions, or why did I get this commission? And I'm actually going to write an essay about it for my book, actually, not the book itself. So with Unbound, when you pledge towards the book, you become like a subscriber. And then I write essays kind of when a milestone is reached, and then I release that essay to subscribers only. And the next one's going to be on imposter syndrome. So I think once I write the essay, I will definitely have more answers to your question.
Yeah, I think
it's really tricky, and also a lot of people experience it. A lot more people than will say.
I think, yeah, I mean, I know we're listening to Shahed, but I'm just want to say that it's important to keep in mind two things. One, no one's going to advocate for your success as much as you will. No one, not even your mom. And the second thing is like people have really short memory spans. Like everybody's super worried about their own things. So, people forget that you shared something. They read something and they forget they saw it. They don't understand. I mean, one of my best friends the other day asked what my company is because she still doesn't understand. I'm pretty sure my father still doesn't know what I do, has never understood. People are like, I think it's important to take a step back. I know it's hard, but remember that like at the end of the day, whatever you're doing, you're the one chasing your goals and it's your life. No one else has any say in it. And most people we're hoping will be supportive of whatever you're doing. And yeah, I'd say we have a really good podcast with Steph Swordwillens on self-promotion. She created a platform called F Being Humble. But I think in general, just remembering that you're advocating for yourself and then everyone else is worried about their own stuff. They won't really remember what you're saying and posting that much. So yeah, and I think go and ask people for support, or like collab. Like when Shad said she was doing this book, I was like, let's do something. Like, so everyone who booked a ticket today can, get a voucher, a discount for the book, but also some of this will go towards the book as well. So yeah, just
Yeah, I also agree. So I went away with a friend recently, just to like in the Yorkshire Dales, and she was like, "Oh, you're writing a book." So she's been following me on social media for the entire time I've known her. She will have seen all of the posts I've been doing. Me thinking that I've inundated people with all of this kind of I'm writing a book. This is what my book about. Please support it. And here she is, asking me if I'm writing a book. So yeah, I would agree. I think either people have short memories or they just don't always see it. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to remember more, is that also, yeah, no one's going to advocate for you more than you.
no.
So yeah, something definitely to remember, which I
And
need to remember when I'm promoting this book.
yeah, when it comes to taste, honestly, some people are gonna like it and some people will hate it. But like, how many people here have friends that have completely opposite taste in films and music? And it's not a judgment of your character per se, even though it's very close to your heart. But like, every single big artist in the world has been at one point welcomed with like massive like discredit by some type of gatekeeper or whatever. Like everyone will go to a bookshop and will see tons of things like, how did this get published? So it's, I mean, not that this is the case here. I'm just saying, like, try to take perspective that you do that with others as well.
Even when you're kind of self-promoting an article, people, like I wrote an article recently. I can't, the thought's gone from my head. But yeah, like people are always going to either agree or disagree with you. That's probably quite healthy, as long as that disagreement doesn't just then go into trolling. Then that's awful, and nobody should experience that. But kind of people just engaging with your piece is always a great thing. I also need to remember that when I'm kind of trying to share articles on social media. But yeah, it's a hard thing. Imposter syndrome is very real. And no matter how much experience kind of you get, if you're 20 years down the line or if you're just starting out, people experience it, even if they don't talk about it. A lot, I think especially if you're from a marginalized community, it's very much heightened. So yeah, I'm in the same boat as you.
Yeah. And I was just going to say that when you are sharing an article, for instance, or anything that you're doing, I think it's really important to understand that this actually creates a conversation. So for instance, the way I use LinkedIn or anything, a lot of things that I do is like follow people that do things I'm interested in, or they are working in spaces that I would potentially like to be in. And then I see, who are they working with? What are the platforms that maybe are commissioning that are working with them? Who are the brands that they are partnering with? Because if you see similarities, that could just create research. So if these people never shared, oh, actually, this person is really interested in this team, you wouldn't know, So, and like, I do a lot of public speaking. A lot of times I see someone who's done a public speaking workshop in a place that I like to collaborate with. Then I can ask like, oh, who did you talk to? I didn't know they did stuff like this. So, and this happens to my friends as well. So I think it's really important that you sharing things means that you're adding to a conversation, because people will follow you because they identify something around you. So they will be like, oh, Shahed is publishing at Aurelia. What is Aurelia? Oh, maybe I can publish there. So it can also serve as like a place to signpost things to others that want to sort of follow in your footsteps or whatever. So like, think about it, how this is also doing a service, it's sharing. It's instead of like keeping everything to yourself. It's like, oh, I've done this, so this organization is great, and work with them, and it was amazing. I think that actually serves a purpose. It's not just sharing your work, which would be fine, but it also does help others. So it maybe frame it that way.
I think another way that I try and combat self-promo, especially on social media, is I try to engage as much as I can with kind of other people who are sharing things. So, if I'm following a writer or an editor and they've shared an article and I really liked it, instead of kind of just liking it or like, pressing the like button, I'll try and write a comment, because I know that comment will, it might mean something more than, just like a like or a retweet. So yeah, that's kind of what I try to do as well. I try to engage with people on the platform, in a way that I would, might want people to engage with me, and then, people see your name, and, there's more of a network formed, and, they might send you a DM, and then, an editor's name is passed around and you get commission. I think that's kind of how the freelance, how freelancing, especially on social media, that's kind of how it works. So yeah, that's how I try to kind of combat that side of self-promo. Like, well, I've shared this, but I'm going to try and go and engage with a bunch of articles that I've liked reading as well.
I love that. Thank you. All right. I think we have time for maybe one final question, and then we'll have to wrap up. If anyone has any final thoughts, questions, comments, it can be anything. I mean, within topic, we spoke a lot about imposter syndrome at the end. Self-promotion, but I think it's great.
Imposter syndrome is so big on it for me recently, especially like trying to find ways around it. It's a lot.
Well, you call me and I'm gonna give you a big pep talk on this. Okay,
that's another thing, is that reaching out to kind of friends or family and just asking them to give you a pep talk. That's always nice.
Yeah, sometimes you need a pep talk. Amazing. So, okay, give us a summary of everything, how they can connect with you, how they can support the book, what's going to happen with it, all of the good stuff in it. How can they reach out if they want to write for Bustle or work with you in any capacity?
Yes. So
with your nice self-promo speech.
Yes. So I'm on Twitter. I will put my @ in the box. It's just my first name and last name. I'm on there mostly for work and sometimes personal reasons. But mostly work. I do try to reply to as many DMs as I can. I'm very slow at it, and I don't always respond to everyone, but I will try my best. Then also, my email is probably better if anyone has any questions or they want me to. I don't mind reading over pictures that you've got or ideas, giving it a once over or having a look at structure or anything like that. So yeah, send me an email. Or if anybody wants me to kind of pass their name on to my bustle editor for shift work, potential shift work, it's probably quite a slim chance, just because, yeah, like I said, our rota is quite full. But with Christmas coming up, you never know. People might, have other obligations. So yeah, if you're wanting to kind of look into that, then you also let me know there. For my book, I think the crowdfunding campaign link is on the event page, but it's also on my Twitter bio. It's basically anywhere where I am, there is a link in the bio. And then yeah, you should get a discount code for that. I think it's 10%. But yeah, that's me. Please reach out. I always like chatting to people. This is what I used to do. I still do, but I used to do it more when I was just starting out, just emailing or DMing people. And people 99% of the time are really nice and will get back to you, especially if it's kind of like I saw you wrote for Metro. Just wondering who the editor was that you contacted. People, yeah, will give you the email. If they don't, that's weird gatekeeper vibes, and I would probably shy away a little bit. But yeah, 99% of the time, people will kind of give you the info that you're looking for. And yeah, if you want me to read over anything, then yeah, just email me. I will try to get back to you in like within the week. That's what I tell people, just because emails also are a lot for me.
Of course. So thanks everyone for coming. Thanks so much, Jad, for sharing everything with us. Good luck on the rest of the crowdfunding. Everyone will receive a recording. And yeah, on our end, we share creative opportunities every week as well, jobs, all the good stuff. And if you do have ideas of other workshops or people you like to hear from, let us know. We'll be organizing more Q&As with all our mentors as well once the program kicks off. So make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter to be alerted. And again, thanks so much. Congratulations. And thanks everyone. Have an amazing evening.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.